Going back to the 80s and choosing your destroyer. Here's your look at the Hasbro Kenner, the real Ghostbusters Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. The largest and wildest of all ghosts, he represents the real Ghostbusters' biggest challenge. As we usually do, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is by taking the tape measure right to the point of his sailor's hat. He's so adorable. It's a shame he had to destroy the city. Stopping it right there, Stay Puft is 7 inches, or I guess if you want to be exact, 7.027 inches in height. We can switch that over to centimeters, revealing that the figure is a little over 17.5, 17.8 centimeters to be exact. Bring in some of the other Ghostbuster figures that we've looked at before. Of course I can do that. Bring in first Peter Venkman. Next, there's Egon Spangler. Bring in Ray Stantz. And we'll bring in Winston Zedmore. It's kind of cute, actually. It looks like he's going for a group hug. Sorry, what? Bring in the ghosts as well that we looked at before? Well, you ask a lot. Here he is next to Bug-Eye Ghost. We can also bring in Fearsome Flush. Kind of give you a good idea of how the figures stack up. Clearly, Stay Puft has to be taller than the rest of the figures, but he's not true one-to-one scale. If he was scaled appropriately to these characters from the cartoon, then Stay Puft probably would reach my ceiling for being more cost savings, more cost affordable to people picking these up, and of course still be able to fit inside the same cardboard backing. Then of course they had to shrink the scaling down of Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but at least he's still taller than the other figures that we've gotten from this line. Now, Stay Puft, along with the rest of the real Ghostbusters, is based on the original Kenner line that we've gotten from the 80s. Nothing really has changed here from the Stay Puft that we're seeing here right now to that original 80s version of Stay Puft, which I sort of wish that I could have had at the time of this review where I'd be able to compare it. I never really owned a Stay Puft when I was growing up, but I did see a Stay Puft that somebody was selling at a yard sale, and I thought the price was quite affordable at around $1.50. Until I realized how dirty it was up close. Stay Puft had gone all yellow, which I guess was one of the problems that plagued this particular figure. Was the white that looked fine and pristine when you first got it out of the packaging didn't sadly stay that way, and usually a Stay Puft would get scuff lines all over him. He would either get chewed up by the dog, or he would just eventually start getting yellowish color. Luckily, though, I don't have any of those issues so far. And picking up the figure, of course, one thing you'll see right away when you do get this figure in your hand is it's very squishy. It's very soft. Not all of it is soft, mind you. Like the head, for example, seems to be a little bit more of a softer plastic, as well as the same for his body. But like his arms feel like they're a little bit more solid. They're still that soft plastic. In fact, you can see as I'm moving the fingers back and forth on the hands. Obviously, it probably goes without reason, or goes without saying to say that Stay Puft is going to be very limited on articulation. In fact, I could probably just get that right out of the way right now. His head rotates all the way around, and his arms also rotate all the way around as well. There's no real right way. It seems to be displaying the figure. In fact, I think when you get him out of the packaging, his arms are up like this, almost as if he's celebrating a victory. Hey, I destroyed the city! I guess you could also just have the arms swiveled down, but because unfortunately they don't go close enough to his body, it sort of just looks like he's wading in a very deep amount of water. Back and forth like this. The coloring on him is actually quite good. We can get a closer look at his face there. Such a harmless little guy. What damage could he possibly do? Oh, right. You can see he's got his sailor's hat there, where it actually says Stay Puft, right along the top there. A little band of dark navy blue. The same blue, actually, that's on the top there, along with his red ribbon. As you can see with his face, the pupils are only the things that are painted in black, along with his mouth. They sort of give you an indicating that there's a line right there, but all of it is just basically painted black. I ask myself, really, what was the intended plan of it? It kind of looks like he's got teeth, in fact, and they're just all painted in jet black. He's got the navy blue, of course, that goes across the top of his collar with the same similar red as the ribbon along top. He's also got a little bow down below there as well. He's a cute little guy. Paint on this guy is actually pretty good. I mean, there's very little paint on this guy. You see it certainly from front and back. There's a little bit of mess there along the back area there, where you've got this band of white that goes on the inside of the collar piece. It's not too bad, and If anything, I'm probably not going to be seeing it from this side anyways. We can also look at the figure from upside down so you can see what his feet look like. I mean, just by the way, in case you're curious, though, they print this as a 2020 release. Obviously based on the mold that they're pulling it from. Even though, like I said, he doesn't have much in the way of posability. I mean, we already ran through that rather quickly. His head, and of course his arms. The whole point of him basically is just that he's a toy that's going to sit along with the Ghostbusters. One of the big problems with a character like this is just because, again, like when you're looking at the plastic up close and personal like this, it's very impossible to keep this pristine white like this. So if you ever pick this guy up aftermarket, whether it be a garage sale, flea market, or even online, to get this guy loose in his original state, you probably will find, especially if anything, like little rub lines on here, where it's rubbed up against other plastics and it sort of scuffed the white. If you can find yourself a pristine copy, then congratulations. Or, again, the next best thing for this is to obviously go the Hasbro route. If you're not somebody that's so set on the idea that it has to be the original 80s toy, for me personally, I mean, I just want real Ghostbusters on my collection shelf. It doesn't really matter what time period they're from. It would be great to be able to pull them still from the original 80s line, but I don't have the original 80s line, and I really don't want to start investing into things that could be more expensive for my wallet. I love the idea that Hasbro was re-releasing these, and again, the fact that we got all 4 Ghostbusters, we've got ourselves several ghosts already, and we also got the Ecto-1. It's really a great time to be a Ghostbusters fan. The fans that probably aren't going to be as interested into this line are the ones that still have their original cards sealed from the 80s. The ones that either bought them that way or were lucky enough to never really open them as kids. Those are probably going to be the ones that maybe have more of a soured feeling towards this line, because then it kind of depreciates the value of the ones that they have originally in their collection. I get that. I completely understand that. But you also have to be able to look at it from the perspective of collectors that are new into collecting this. None of us don't really have several hundreds of dollars to invest into the original toy line. So Hasbro has sort of allowed us the opportunity to kind of relive our childhood by being able to pick up the toys that we either had growing up in the 80s, or where we've been able to go back and pick up the line again because we don't have those toys anymore. Again, for that reason, I'm glad to see that they're re-releasing these toys. Stay Puft, though, he's a little bit more... Admittingly, he's a little bit more limited when you're looking at him. It's great to finally have a Stay Puft in my collection, something I never had before. You know, that's actually a rather interesting topic. If you don't mind, I'd like to stay on for a second. And for this, of course, I'd like to ask you, the viewing audience, as well. Let's just say you found yourself the original vintage toy line, something that you grew up with. It doesn't have to necessarily be the real Ghostbusters. It could be anything. It could be Transformers. It could be G.I. Joe. Whatever it is. Say you were able to find the original vintage line still sealed in packaging, and you spent several hundreds of dollars to get those and part of your collection. How would you then feel, maybe a year or so later, a company came around, got those original molds, or close enough to those original molds, got the somewhat original packaging, and then widely distributed it to retail stores at, of course, retail price? Would something like that bother you, or do you feel like, okay, you know, I've still got the original vintage line, and I know that it's the vintage line. It doesn't bother me the fact that, yes, I could probably just go to the store and get, like now, a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, just as an example, for about like a $10 to $14 price point. Interested to really hear your comments down below on that. I know some people were really bothered by the idea, because having seen it on forums, people really didn't like the idea that, yeah, they did spend the money to get the original Stay Puft or the original real Ghostbusters in hand, only then to find out that the company, another company, picked up that property, released it widely to retail stores, and as a result of it, kind of depreciated the value of what they invested in the first place. You know, again, I completely understand both sides of it. I mean, I would love to get the original vintage line, and yeah, I would be probably a little bit bummed the fact that a company just re-released something after I just saved the money to get the originals. But on the other end of it too, I don't have the original real Ghostbusters. I don't have the original ones sealed. If I still did, sure, that'd be a different story, but I don't have several hundreds of dollars to go back and start trying to buy those up. I have what I feel is the next best thing. Even if I'm opening these up and displaying them on the shelf, I don't have to really be telling everybody, okay, these are the Hasbro re-releases. These aren't the original Kenner releases. For me, it's good enough and close enough to the original toys that I would have had as a kid, or most of what I would have had as a kid. But really would like to hear your comments on the whole topic of this down below in the comments section. If you guys are, of course, new to this channel, enjoying all the content you're seeing, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And of course, if you are interested, we are going to be looking at more of the real Ghostbusters. We are still going to be looking at the Green Ghost, which of course is Slimer. That's just the name that they've given it. And we're also going to be looking at the Ecto-1. So there will be some more Ghostbusters stuff coming your way. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.